got a moment. When they see you down, just know they love it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back. I'm your host Bobby. I got a special guest with me. My boy, we go way back, did some time together and all that stuff. So he could tell it better than me though. Why don't you tell the people your name and where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, just Teddy Babbitt. I'm from Cambridge, the coast. Pretty much grew up out here since a youth. I moved from Orchard Park to here at 5 years old. Grew up right on Howard Street, right in the middle. And, just early on, it was just trouble, just always getting into something. Like my mother always said I was a street kid. I wasn't a stoop kid. I just couldn't be home. My little brother, he was a stoop kid.
Right.
He was always at home and played the home part. But I had to be out in the streets. It was always chins, runaways, and always in the trouble, it seemed like. But I guess like when things really came to a head, it was when elementary school. Before like ever doing any kind of like real drugs or any alcohol, I was always a violent kid. Like I always took beefs internally, and I would make it like my one and only issue to make sure that you hurt. Just consumed me.
Like that's your arch enemy, almost type of shit. You just really obsessed about it.
And I relished in like trying to get other people involved too. Like I used to have a bunch of people like running around chasing a certain kid out here in Cambridge. Right. I won't say his name, but it was just I enjoyed doing that. It was like a hobby in a lot of ways.
Right.
But doing that, I ended up getting in some trouble, getting evicted from. Not suspended, expelled from school.
Okay.
Pretty much from
where
the King Open.
King Open.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, that's like an elementary school. What grade were you in when you got expelled from the King Open?
I want to say it was right before we transitioned off into high school. So like 8th.
8th grade.
Yeah. Because I went to the Morris School from like K in the K kindergartens, and then I changed over to the King Open because I had moved to Brighton, and then that came back to Cambridge.
And that was for fights, like violence?
Fights, yeah, just
everything?
Getting into beefs. It was like, I was always I was tested early. Like when I got to the King, I wasn't tested in like the Morris School. It was like, more little kid stuff. It was like, we always fought with each other. Like I remember me, Mike Colono, like Jason Baines, everybody, we'd be always beefing with each other. But it was always always in good heart though. Like we always hang out with each other afterwards, and like we always later on in life we became very good friends. But
absolutely. I think that makes us tougher too.
Yeah, trials and tribulations.
Fighting your friends that way. When you fight other people, you already kind of built for it. You know what I mean? But trials and tribulations make you tougher. Yeah. Definitely more on the emotional side, the mental side too, and physically for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I can remember one particular incident with Mike Colono, man, and when he lived over there at River Street in the little townhouses. I remember he'd gotten the better of me in some sort of fight. We some little fisticuffs, but I remember I was so mad. I took a bat to his door, just started pounding on his door. You probably see the dent still in the door today if they haven't changed it. They probably changed it, but yeah, man, it was crazy. But like it was nothing ever really too serious though. It was like we always licked our wounds and just kept it moving.
Absolutely.
We wasn't out there trying to really like hurt people.
Well, that's what I would say too. Like, fortunately, as much beef like being from like East Cambridge that we got in, it was never like murder beef, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That changes the game when it's murder beef, because now I could bump into a lot of dudes that I fight, and it's love and respect for the most part.
Yeah, I could say that about East Cambridge kids in particular, man, because there was a point in time when I just didn't get along with East Cambridge kids in particular, and it was like Halloween was like a day to go out on missions, and it was like the coast versus the world, and it was like East Cambridge was definitely in the sights. It was like
And we was the easy target. You knew where to find us.
Yeah. You know, you guys were like easy to hate. You know what I'm saying? Especially, you know, because, you know, what I'll give you this. For a lot of the kids in East Cambridge early on, you guys really, like, younger, got into the hustle shit really young. And I think a lot of people seen that and kind of like a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of like, you know, didn't see that, you know, like kind of
my older dudes were like only 19 pushing the Benzes and the Lexus and all that at young ages. Them dudes were kind of balling out. And those are the kids I looked up to.
Yeah, the little guy, you know. But but you know, it's funny because years later, like some of these kids that I would be running around beefing with, I can really say that some of my closest friends saw Buck, Nicky Camerata, man, you know, and these were kids like back in the day. I would say like this would be murder drunk,
right?
Like, and it was funny because I didn't even really know you guys really. I think a situation had arose one time with
was it a bicycle?
One time with the bicycles.
I feel like that's where I remember.
One time you remember on Cambridge Street, I think it was me and two other kids.
Yeah.
And the two other kids were from Somerville.
Yes.
And the little dinos I had stolen them all, and I had the other kids riding
I
them.
remember one of my boys came up to me and said, "Yo, these dudes just stole my bike," or something like that.
Yeah. There was a big brawl right there on the street. And I remember that.
Is that what happened? Did y'all try to steal dude's bike?
I had those bikes.
Was it? Okay.
That was like my little hustle. Matter of fact, the little bike shop down the street back in the day was owned by different people. They had bought them, and so they were like, you know, little backdoor little hustle. They would buy the dynos. So that was like, you know, early on, young kid. That was like the trick bikes. That's what I used to do.
Dynos, GTs. Yeah, I remember that wave.
You know what I'm saying? The high rows and all that. And so I had a bunch of nice ones that day, and I just had like the two other kids just riding them because they were just extra ones that I had. And it was funny because the kids had just said that like out of the blue, and I felt like it was just something like maybe, you know, you guys are really like, you're getting like a lot of people like straying into your neighborhood. You were very like, you know, in that sense, like, you know, put up your guard, and like you guys didn't really tolerate a lot of that wandering around. And I felt like that was really the case, but that situation.
Other people up to no good from other neighborhoods or other cities, you know. It would probably be an issue. There's been issues with dudes like even just trying to sell weed at the park, like. Nah, bro, this is not like, dude, like, crazy stuff.
That happened on Scrapper. I remember all the faces involved, and I could say like years later, like all them kids. You know, and then, you know, even years later, and I don't even know if Mike even remembers this, when we were at the school down the street, Far Academy.
Oh, okay.
And he had gotten, I was already out of Far Academy. I had already been told that I was better seek my education.
And for the people that don't know, what is Far Academy?
It's an alternative school for people that have
kicked out of public schools, pretty much. Correct.
So it's you know, vocation, like half a days and no homework. You know, you couldn't pay me to go back to public school after going to Far Academy, and you know, it was a good situation for those who took advantage of it, though. You know, but
cigarette breaks and all that.
Yeah, cigarette
people
breaks.
Are astounded now when I tell them, like, high schools, like people under 18 had designated cigarette breaks, right? That's crazy to think about nowadays.
You know, they did a lot of good things too, like, you know, with employment, and you know, they get you the summer job, and you know, and it was like they incorporated some of like the, you know, the schooling involved too, but that was big, man. Like, you know, that $150 a week, you know, to make little cow spot bowls, man.
Right.
That was huge.
And that's late '90s. That was took you a lot further. That's probably like $250 now, close to the $3.
That was a re-up.
Right.
That's
what we. Yeah, I remember. That's my first mayor's program checks was kicking it up to the older heads.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Weed is all legal now,
and
but
it was like, you know, and I had gotten involved with a couple of people from East Cambridge that probably weren't really like really liked either. You know, I hung out with the kid that was, you know, from Thorndike Street. He really, for being from East Cambridge, he was kind of like an outsider, and you know, I kind of linked up with him because I gravitated towards him because we went to the same school, but being close to him, I kind of got dragged into his little drama with some East Cambridge kids.
Okay.
But that had nothing to do with me, and
that's just how it is.
Yeah,
Most of my fights were personally for friends and stuff like that.
But it was funny because years later, I was actually talking to Mikey McQueenie about this the other day.
Yeah,
he was like, "Yeah, man, when we went up to you, man, we didn't even know who you was then. He was like, you were just collateral damage."
You with the wrong crowd. That's how it is, but that's how things you got to be careful with. Even bringing it back to like the big yard, right? Or whatever, chow, bro. Yeah. Like if you're walking a chow with somebody, you're inheriting their beef pretty much, right? You don't just walk with you, but
you really vet who you surrounding yourself around, and who you're sitting next to, and who's gonna be at your left and who's gonna be at your right hand, especially at that chow hall.
Right.
Because that chow hall, your head gotta be on a swivel, man. And I can, and I was always a good temperature. I can usually read a chow hall like a book. I remember I walked in the chow hall one time, and I just looked around, and I told everybody at my table, I said, "Yo, we're gonna be here for a while," just because I just seen what was going on. I seen like the Lad Kings over there. They were kind of posturing, and a GD kid had just came to the joint, and he was like, and all the other GD kids kind of like. Before they were kind of meek, they really didn't hear much from them. Now they kind of got a little new pep in their step, and I was like, oh, this is going to be something. And I just seen just the movement.
Percolating.
And it was like right on money. And that ended up being a 2-week lockdown, man. Damn. That was like a 20-on-1 beef.
What, all fist fights? No weapons?
All the
but that many people is a big thing,
ended up running down on the kid. I mean, the kid held his own pretty much. I mean, he was throwing beads, just backing up out of the chow hall, but
there's only so much you can do.
But that that chow hall, back to that, just knowing who you're around, I remember early on my first bid in Concord. I remember a situation where.
How old were you? First bid in Concord.
First bid in Concord, I was
just to give perspective for the for the
19
people.
19
years old. Okay, first bid in Concord.
I had caught a case out in Harvard Square. It was my first adult case. It was a dope case.
They hit you with the state time. So what happens when you get up there though? You get upstate your first time. You're 19.
I'm always been, because I've already did a county bid just to get my feet wet, but it was like rushed because I kind of went to the county and then went right to state prison because I already had the state case already.
What was the biggest difference at first that you noticed going upstate?
Just the size, and less right in the county, you pretty much know you're gonna be around some homeboys.
Right.
There's gonna be a couple of stray cats because you got them out of towners like Lowell and Woburn and the kids you don't really rock with, but primarily you're gonna get your Cambridge guys, you're gonna get your Somerville guys, and so pretty much it's home base. You can kind of sit back and kind of it's a more chill and because you're looking for out of towners. It's kind of like you're at home court.
Right, home field advantage.
Upstate, I mean, one of the real.
So you go from being like a big fish in a small pond almost. If you're anybody who's anybody in county, not even like anybody who's anybody, but just someone who's known not to like that dude to at least stand up for himself or will fight. That's really all it's about. Is someone is not gonna get punked, and that's it. But now you become like, so to speak, a big fish in a small pond. Now you go up, you're a big fish even in the ocean now, or whatever.
And it's weird when you see the vibe between the Springfield kids and the Boston kids. Now was
and that's something we were never exposed to that part of Massachusetts. Worcester County. That was
eye opener for me. I remember because it was that year. It was 2004, and Boston was getting up and with the baseball, and we were going in for the title, and a lot of Springfield kids are New Yorkers, so they kind of hate on Boston. It's always
Giants fans.
They kind of like New Yorkers. They're upstate New Yorkers in a lot of ways. Connecticut would not, but I remember the one kid, they got into an argument, and the kid from Boston said something about the kid from Springfield mayor being Flanders or some crazy shit from The Simpsons. It was crazy. But it was real beef, dude. It was motherfuckers were really about to get at it, and it was just I was like, wow, man. And I would have never thought Springfield. I'd never heard of the place.
Well, the only we know now being there, but growing up, that's like the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
that's about all we
they
knew of
had
it.
the Black
We weren't
picnic there,
exposed to like
too.
the street stuff of it. You know what I
the
mean?
street stuff is crazy. Yeah, but I guess there's a hood everywhere.
It's wild out there though too, but
it
don't
is
sleep.
wild,
Yeah.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, in particular, I just and that's one thing about being upstate. You just can't really just because you of course you gotta have pride in your neighborhood, but you also gotta be very observant because you don't know who you're dealing with, and there's just ways to navigate around that.
And a lot of things come back around, man. You see some stuff, man. People that comes back 10 years later for some stuff that maybe happened in county, and dudes thought they were skating, and then you know what I mean? They catch it one way or another. You know?
You see a lot of that happening, man. I tell you, from my first to my second bid in state prison, it was real different, man. Because I remember, like, all right, when I was first up there, like, I remember when I first went in there, like I was, like I said, I'm observant. I like to watch things and see what the ebb and flow of things are before I try to stick my toe in anything.
2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you talk.
So, and I was just sitting back and I was taking in everything. And, me being who I am and doing the type of time that I did my time. I didn't do everybody else's time. And, I kind of had like, my situation is a little more different than a lot of other people's.
I mean, are you willing to get into that? Being who you rolled with and all that, like, or who you sat at the table with, who was your guys?
So everything's on the table. I mean, it pretty much boils down to, growing up, guys that I ended up like gravitating towards, like. One of my best friends is like a white dude, so I never really had no prejudices and like
You're not really. We weren't really more exposed to that more till jail and prison, or people. I feel like in my neighborhood, people may have came home from jail and all and brought that shit to the neighborhood a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I mean, I could see where you're coming from but. Sometimes this ain't California neither. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll see like a white blood here and there, right? You'll see a white Crip, a white King. I've seen a white Muslim, right? It is what it is for the most part. If you're a good dude, you're a good dude. You pick a side, and they're not gonna, that's who you're rolling with. That's who you're rolling with.
Yeah, and like you stay true to that.
Yeah,
you stay true to that. Like will there be people chirping? Like where people talking shit like, oh, he's in with the white dudes. Of course.
Behind your back. You get any have you got into any real issues though, Teddy? About have anyone come to you, black or white? Like because certain white dudes would probably look at that a certain way too. Maybe these white dudes from the suburbs who like have
other dudes, something like Western and shit, that older dudes that were, but it was
the
weird,
age thing too.
It was weird though, because I was like, I don't know what it was, but it was like I remember when I could tell you like when it all really like went down, and it was in the county, and I remember I was just sitting back doing my own thing, and it was the kid Gotti, right? He was making a Easter dinner, and they put the tablecloth down on the table and everything else,
to cook
and I was
eat,
and he was like, Teddy, you're gonna have a seat at the table. And it was just started from there, and it was just like, those are the people that I ate with, I gravitated towards. Those are the people that I walked the yard with. So I didn't deviate from that, and I just kept it in true to myself and comfortable with what I did, And but there's also the dual thing that like where I do have a history in Boston too, like what I'm saying. Like you say, some things come full circle.
Right.
Like my father's side of the family, from Orchard Park, they were that's a big family and a lot of people. Like I was in jail with one of my
Orchard Park
cousins,
is the projects.
Yeah, like murder and everybody else was up there. So I can say honestly, I kind of had it good because nobody would ever really like, even the Boston kids wouldn't really step out of line.
Yeah.
But like there were motherfuckers that like like I remember the situation.
Mumbling behind it.
Two didn't like me. They were doing the thing with the Suboxones and whatever the case was. He didn't want me getting involved in it, but he had gotten a call from Hollywood like, yo, listen, Wood's my first cousin. That's like one of my favorite cousins.
Right.
He got on the phone with Wood in the yard, and Wood just pretty much told him like, yo, look out for Dude. That's what they call me, my family and shit. you know, and Wood just made that clear.
I think what's easy about like being able to like someone look out for you is you're the type of dude you look out for yourself too, right? It's always about
I don't
I'll have
much.
you can have someone's back, but I'm not gonna have your back and fight. I'll fight with you. I won't fight for you.
But
you know what I'm saying? You always been true to yourself and always did what you had to do.
Like you know this, and you definitely the way that you move, you don't ask a lot of your friends, and like you wouldn't have a friend who's like always gonna be in some shit, and
right.
like you know if he was like that, you try to talk him off of them legends,
right. I wasn't pouring gasoline on the fire
like,
type
there
of
are
people.
them people that are like that are always like stirring the pot. Like you know, you got the Sawbucks that are always in the mix and stirring the pots and seem like they're always in some mix. And it's like those friends are the type of friends that it gets exhausting.
Yeah, well, my brother been down for so long, and I feel like, and he's just been in so long, so it's like you're in it. And like I came up a state bid. I was a short timer, bro. I was doing 3 years, man. And that's what it was, you know what I mean? I was by the time I already got sentenced to it, I knew like this is it. I'm gonna do this bid. I'm gonna do the right thing, you know what I mean? I'm gonna try to stay out of trouble. I'm not gonna be a bitch neither. And then that was how I went about it. Next thing I know, man, I got a program, I got a schedule where I work out and try programs, and next thing I knew I was gone, man.
You did a real good bid, man. I could say that bid that when I was there with you, man, that was a real hard one for me, man. We
used to kick it at the window all the time, man.
That
you
was
come
a hard
by
one,
when you had your medication. What was so hard about it? Did you have things going on the outside, Teddy, or was it your age? You did it already? That wasn't your first state bid. For me, it was my first state bid. It's a new experience, you know, so everything's new.
But it was like, you know, there was a situation with like, my first state bid, like, to get access to drugs during my first state bid, you had to be like somebody. They didn't just let anybody get a hold of the bag. So like now with the advent of like Suboxones being what they were and having them just being in the system like they were, just inundated in the system, like they call Concord the Port of Miami. Like, you know, and it was crazy because now just any old buddy who had access to a money order, MoneyGram, was able to get something, 5 pills or whatever. So now you had like scrams and everybody getting involved, and that's when you had like the people that were checking off with units and shit like that. And I remember I did good for the first couple months, man, when I first got there. You know, I didn't touch nothing. I didn't really get involved with anything. And then like, I don't know what it was exactly. I don't know if it was boredom or whatever, but I remember the day that it happened. I was in the yells, and I was like, oh, let me try a little piece right there. And then right from then on, it was just like miserable, like. And it became, because it consumed my whole bid. It was like programming I couldn't do. Like, I literally got 14 days of good time during 5 years in Concord.
Wow.
You know, and that's terrible.
So you was you know, in and out the hole.
Yeah, in and out the hole. Like
mainly dirty urine, stupid shit.
Dirty urines, being out of places because I had to go and get this stuff, so I had to be in somebody else's unit that I'm not supposed to be in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Being out of place.
So it was,
it's movement and like where the hell is this motherfucker
getting caught
at?
up by rabbit, like, you know, and I became, you know, being there for as long as I was like, you know, I was an easy target, you know, and you know, and I had already had some situation, like my first bid, I ended up getting like kind of bundled up by the cops and getting sent to the max, and that was eventually like the outcome of that first bid. But
how was your stay? How was the max? I never been to the max, man. Is it just a lot of?
For me, it was a short little giddy up. Like I was almost wrapping up, so it really wasn't like when I got there. It was weird because I was already in the hole for 6 months. You know, I was fighting the DDU ticket, and so it was like finally I was just happy to be able to stretch my legs once I got to the max. And so, you know, and I got to the block. I think it was the orientation block. I think it was M1, and I remember I seen the kid Jimmy Garvey from Charlestown there, and Jimmy, he was like, because there was a situation that had happened with a guy from Cambridge who again got poked up.
Okay.
And so I was in the hole with the guy, and so
is that he passed away? The guy that got poked up?
No.
Okay, I'm thinking of something different.
No,
poked up on the inside.
Yeah, on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like I didn't, but he was an older guy from Cambridge. You know what I'm saying? And like I kind of didn't know what the situation was with him and the dude, but we used to kick it in the hole. I mean, we would it's in the hole together for 6 months.
Yeah.
We would go out to the box together, and and from what I understood the situation to be, because I was only hearing it from his perspective, that the other guy was, yo good, yada yada yada. But when it all came out in the wash, unfortunately, because it was a guy that I kind of looked up to, you know what I'm saying? He was an older dude from Cambridge.
Came out, you backed the wrong guy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And like, it was just, I didn't back any guy, but there was a situation where this other guy from East Boston was in the hole with us. And this guy used to yell at him every time he walked by with him in the shower. And so now, like, this guy ended up in the max in the orientation unit with me. And like, I wasn't really like, wasn't involved in the situation with the kid getting stabbed or whatever.
Right.
But the guy was like nervous. He was like, he didn't want to like, he actually sent Jimmy Garvey to come over and talk to me. Like, listen, he didn't want there to be an issue between me and him because he felt like maybe I was going to move on him for the guy that I was,
right.
talking to in the hole.
I got you, yep.
And I had to tell him like, nah, that wasn't my issue. That wasn't my issue. But it was weird because once I got over to like, I ended up going into a feeding block, which was more like a lifers block. And it was like shell shock, because here I am almost going out the door. I'm in the unit with like Anthony Clemente and like guys, some real like, predicated felons, you know what I'm saying? And so like, it was like,
and you end up wrapping up from the max?
I wrapped up from that unit, yeah, man. And it was weird because like people had kind of like knew my situation and kind of like knew who I ran with, and everybody wanted to know, the jail gossip, what had happened, what was really going on with that. And I remember, the Davy White show had called me down to the cell, and guy from South Boston, kind of fucking notorious dude, and he was like, kind of like trying to pick my brain, kind of like ask me what was going on with this situation. And I kind of played it good, kind of like said, didn't know what was going on and downplayed it, whatever the case was, and just told him I didn't really know what was the situation between the two dudes. Yeah. But and it was just like that. But it was weird, man, because it was like, I was in it, like it was single cells at the time, so it was like I liked that, just being able to seclude to myself. And like I said, it was kind of fucked up because like, I was in the hole for 6 months. I get to the max. Somebody tried to like cut through the rec deck.
Jeez.
So they did an institutional fucking shakedown. We were locked in for another 2 weeks. So it's like, bro, I just get here, right? And then I'm back in the fucking lockdown situation. But
and that was were you there when they did the double bunks? Have you been there since they double bunked?
I haven't been there since they double bunked. No. And I'm glad. I mean, not that. I mean, I would just would it be this? It would be the same
it is
thing.
what it is.
I mean, because like I'd be double bunked in Concord. I mean, and I've had some cellies in Concord. It was like I couldn't get a good celly. I mean, there was a couple good ones, but
it's hit or miss, man. I feel like I've had them all, from like good dudes to like crashes that are like headbutting the freaking window and stuff like that, bro. To dudes making homebrew and like if you taking a hit for absolutely nothing to do with that, you know what I mean? And the kid eventually did take, but that wasn't even.
Yeah, I was cooking the brew for a while, but I had a good kid. The kid was a 5%.
How did you cook the brew, bro?
Because it's funny because
like everybody tells me a different recipe.
I got the germ from the LK kids because I was plugged in, man. See, I don't know what it was. See, I fucked with a lot of people. Like people like, yo, Teddy fucked with just the white dudes. Nah, because I had like the Latin Kings fucked with me hard. Like so, Andy and Easy, they had a germ, a stinking germ. Shit was some.
So what's a germ? That's that shit you like reuse it.
Did you reuse it? It's just kind of like the shit that helps turn the prune. It was like the fermented fruit.
And that was your hustling, because I feel like everybody gotta have a little hustle, right?
Yeah, it was a hustle for a little bit, because it was like so the brothers always were the dudes with the pills, right? Mm-hmm. And so like if like my people didn't get the pack, like Toot and Lamurda and all them didn't get the pack, and then I had to go and outsource it, I would be, dealing with other dudes that, and they like the drink. They usually like the K2, or they like the booze. So the booze is always a fucked up situation, because like you gotta transport it. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep it in your cell.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I'm saying? The shit's hot.
Big ass bag and shit. Yeah, it's not
it's
like nothing
up,
you could just
yeah.
tuck. Like you could tuck.
I mean, I got
100 fucking pills.
I came off on a couple of batches, a couple of good batches too, man. But
What's like, you ever do any wild shit drunk?
Nah,
locked
I only
up?
drank
Luckily,
that shit
was
one time.
Yeah,
one time.
see, I didn't really like
was in
it.
a chow hall. I didn't like that shit,
Yeah,
man.
I had a headache. Yeah, okay, see, I had a headache like a motherfucker,
man,
bro.
I didn't like that shit. The headache was just crazy. I remember me and Tommy Fisher, man, we was sitting there and I was like, I'm good, dude.
He passed away, right?
I don't know. He was living in Arlington last I heard, but he was going out with some girl, but I haven't really heard from out in Rhode Island he was living, as a matter of fact, and he had hit me up a couple of times. When I first got out.
So how long you been out now, bro?
Wow.
From your like you been out for?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. Did you go back after we were together?
I did go back. I went back
county.
for a county.
Me too. 90 days.
I did a 6 month, because I had Steve Busby, man, and
So what year did you get out of prison? Last time in state prison. Do you remember what year that was?
The last time in state prison?
That you got out, yeah.
I can remember the day.
Yeah.
Of the epic snowstorms. The day after, I was in Plymouth. Because I had gotten into another situation with the COs in Concord. They fucking ended up beating me down.
And Plymouth will take anybody. They take state.
I was sitting in the hole for another 6 months and another DDU ticket. Jeez. And I was just happy that my points were low enough that I was able to get and I was like a situation where there was another kid in the hole and he was from that county and he was telling me how, amping it up, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a good deal.
I mean, that shit happens.
And it was like, a good time and shit. Because
so
I'm getting close to home. I want to try to like get this good time.
How long between you got out there from Plymouth, right, your state bid, to when you went back for your little county bid? How much time?
It was like maybe 6 months.
6 months.
It was fucked up, man, because like I wasn't even really like, in the way that I see it, the way that I consider myself, because like I've done a lot of crazy shit in my day to get some of the time that I did, and so like when I'm on probation and I'm like doing certain shit that like I don't even feel like is a crime, and I'm actually going back to jail for these things, and I'm like, this is fucking crazy, man. And it was like, I try to walk the tightrope with these dudes, and it was like
what was it? Smoking weed, or was it like just being around a felon?
So the situation was like, all right.
He's like, I didn't know it was a crime, so I'm just curious.
It was kind of stupid on my part too. All right, so
we all do stupid shit, bro.
I was working. I had a job. That was one thing I did. I got a job like the first day I got out. It's just
that's so big to the POs, bro.
I went on a walk. I remember I went to go smoke a cigarette away from my house. I didn't want my mom to know that I was smoking. And I remember I went into the restaurant down the street from my house, and I was like, went in there, and the Lebanese lady, I know my work history is non-existent, and like all gaps in my history of working and no experience doing anything. But I did have a serve safe that I had gotten in Plymouth, and in an OSHA card that I was able to say that I had, which was good. But
absolutely shows that you're doing something, especially with the gaps and all that shit.
And so the lady, I remember, she just looked at me, man, and she was like, you know what? I think she said, I'm gonna give you a chance.
Wow.
And I think it was a situation because it's the restaurant field, and the turnover in the restaurant industry is like, it's a lot. They were always looking for help, and it's like, they were desperate, and it was like they wanted me to come in the next day, and like I said, it was like the epic snowstorms. It was snow mounds, like people were walking in like grooves in the street. It was crazy.
So you couldn't make it to work?
No, I did make it. The job was literally 2 blocks away from my house. Okay. So it was real convenient. And I worked at the place Johnny D's right in Davis Square. Nice. And just doing like food running and stuff. And it was a job, man.
How did you end up violating though?
Because all right, so I was eating Suboxone still. Okay. Like just kind of like.
Now they prescribe those on the inside, right?
They prescribe them now. They do.
Yeah, okay.
But then they didn't. Okay. But even I should have been able to take them like. Yeah, and not have any.
Yeah. You're trying
I just didn't get the prescription.
Right. Okay.
So I was on Vivitrol. I was on Vivitrol.
Okay. And that's what? That's the shot, right?
That's a shot.
It's like a blocker.
It's a blocker. So I wasn't able to get high off of heroin anyway, as it was. So I was doing Suboxones, and and so the first thing, I was living at my house. I had gotten a Suboxone dirty urine. Oh no, it wasn't a Suboxone. I had a flim flam of urine because I knew I was gonna be dirty, and I got caught.
Okay.
So, dude was like, "Listen, they threw me in Concord for 2 weeks. I needed to get a program." So here I was calling like Freddie Harvey, get to someplace. I ended up going to the homeboy's fucking spot over there in Malden. And I remember
Mikey Lee? Is that?
No, what's his name? Anthony.
Okay.
Anthony.
Yeah. I know of him.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name neither. But so you get into there.
I get in Anthony's spot, and like I see Fruity like that. The day that I'm going there, right? It's in Malden, and he's like, Teddy, that guy's gonna throw the net over you, dude. I'm telling you. Like, he's seen like the future. Like, he had a crystal ball that day on the fucking train. Jeez. And it was like, and I had already heard that the dude was fucking no good. Now I had done time with this guy. So like I've been on a tear with him. Like the
guy who owns the sober house, the whole.
So I'm like, I think I got a little burn, and he was like, Teddy, I didn't know it was you. And then when I finally realized it was you, like, he's telling me all the good things. And now the guy who's like the house manager was the kid Leo Henry, and so Leo's buddy of mine, and it's a good situation. So I was like, tit. So, but Anthony, man, he would not let Leo urine me. he literally made it hard for me. Like, he made it so that he came to the houses to take and I wasn't even living there. I said, Anthony, I paid you the money, but I was living in North Cambridge at the time. I was living with, I was going out with a girl.
So it's like, he's almost double dipping because he's probably renting that room and collecting the money.
He knew that I wasn't staying here, but he tried to tell me like to be there at least a couple of days out of the week. The week that Steve Busby would maybe stop by so that it would be making legal. But in that sense, he was like not really sweating me. He wasn't like always be there, but with the urines, dude, it just seemed like he was just not trying to give me no wiggle room.
No leeway.
And it was like I had gotten a dirty urine for Suboxones, and it was like at that point, Steve Busby was like, I'm not dealing with you, dude. No. And he was just like, and at that point, I was just kind of like wanting to do my time anyway. But I ended up putting my foot in my mouth because I ended up talking in court. And like, because my lawyer was like,
the one thing that you need to never do.
And the judge was like, you know what? I'm gonna do you a favor.
Can I ask you? Were you high when you talked to him?
No, I wasn't high. I was desperate. I mean, I really didn't want to go back to jail. And I get into this thing where I could be eloquent and I can speak with the best of them, right?
You're a smart guy, Ted. You always been.
And I talked for myself in court and like spoke over my lawyer, and the judge was like, wow. He was like, I'm going to tell you what. He was like, I'm going to give you 6 months, and I'm going to let you get out, and then try to, like, get reprobate. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, the fuck is that? That's not the deal. I'm going to be doing 6 months. I'm like, the whole point is so that I can walk out of here today. Yeah. I had a job, and it was like I was working in Watertown in a job that I liked. Yeah. And I was like, damn,
that
dude.
Sucks.
It was just like, I had my girl, and it was like, she was like a real rider during the first, but she was getting tired of the shit too. So it was like, I knew that there was a lot of shit on the line, and it was, dude, that bid fucked up a lot of things.
And you had to do 6 months and get probation after?
After.
What's up with that? So you did the 6 months?
And then I had to get out.
Did you complete the probation?
No.
You violated?
I violated, and I ended up getting another 6 months and wrapped up in a year. Yeah, so
so you wrapped up 6, but how much probation would you have to do?
It was 5 years probation.
So wrapping, a lot of people will volunteer to take 6 months, especially if it's cold out, bro. If it's winter time,
I made out. I made out like a bandit. Trust me, and I know that for sure. I mean, that whole first sentence when I hit, the second, it wasn't really like I did a lot of crime. Because like you said, like you do less crime, you get more time when you get in the system, and that's exactly what happens. And
they get sick of seeing the same faces and stuff like that, especially once you get locked up. Dude, they're like, this kid's gonna never, you're gonna never learn. They just assume that, but sometimes we get older.
And it's like,
but you've been out for a while now, man.
For a while,
bro, that's respectable. A lot of people can't even sit where you are today. Either they went back for the rest of their life, or they can't even make it back there because they lost their life, man. You know how many? I was just thinking about just cellmates alone that I've lost dead, bro. And never mind all the people who not cellmates, and never mind all the people who we probably don't even know are dead too. You know what I'm saying? You go back in there, the faces might be a little bit of the same with the state bid, but them dudes is older.
It's crazy,
then,
man.
you
I
know,
just think about the little dudes, man, like the younger cats that are like just, pretty much, sacrificing their lives, man, in the system, man. Like, your bro and like, you know, other little bro from Cambridge, like Don Marie's nephew. Like I just think about these dudes, like what the fuck, man. And honestly, I get sad because I know what the system is.
It's
man.
tough to leave,
and
man.
It's like,
my brother,
he's
going through a tough time right now. He just told me today, it's like it's not even about the money. It's just I need someone to talk to, I need someone to write to. I feel like people fucking forgot about me out here. You know what I mean? And I'm like, bro, I only did 3 years and they forgot about me too, bro. It just, it sucks, but we here. That's why I'm trying to, I got to be there for him on the outside. You know what I mean? He needs me more out here than to be up there next to him helping him fight or some stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? I could do a lot more for him out here, bro. And that's what I'm trying to do, man. So say somebody just coming home, Teddy, man, you've been out a few years. Like, what is some advice you could give? Like, what has been...
I mean, take it easy, man. I mean, don't try not to. Fools rush in, man, and like that's the truest statement in the world, man. Because you feel like you gotta get out and you gotta make up for some lost time, man. That's not the way to go, man. Because it was like I got out and I did that, man. I was moving a mile a minute, man. I remember, I had the Jaguar. Like within the first month, I came home and I was just, between working and hustling, and it was like I needed to get it all, and it was like. I really wasn't taking time to really like take it easy and just kind of like ease back into life, because people don't realize, man, doing the time, man, takes a toll, and people like who don't do time really don't understand.
They can never understand. Yeah,
they don't really understand it, and they kind of like don't like give.
I mean, let's put it the way it is too. Like 4th of July just passed. Like. People, especially, in America, people don't appreciate your freedom till it's taken from you. That's why I feel like, I feel like certain people from certain countries, immigrants, like they more see it too, because they come over here, they'll work hard, they realize they got a, a chance and stuff like that. And it's not a perfect country by far, man, but it's ours. You know what I mean? It's our country.
It is.
And it is a little fucked up. But when you don't have, your freedom taken from you, can't really appreciate it 100% like the way that we would do, man.
They can't live the life that they want to, just express religion
off of anything for no reason.
It's crazy, and I know about that too, man, because it's like like foreigners that come here and they seem like the foreigners are the ones that take advantage of all like the opportunities that America has to give. Like it's easy.
It's perspective. When you're born in it, you don't see it.
To be disenchanted with America and everything that it isn't, and all its flaws. And especially somebody like me who's done a time and really could sit back and really like sit and tell all its warts, because America has a lot of warts. And like being the person who's I felt like I'd been marginalized in the system and kind of like, I've read like the new Jim Crow, and it was like that system, that caste system is the real thing, man. And it was like, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. I gotta say this too, when I had came home, man, after doing the county bit, I ended up plugging in with some people through Bill Ricker. Like a guy came up there to talk to us about I forget, something or other, and I had shown up to like the interview with like a book in my hand, dog-eared, and he was real fascinated by what I was reading, this old guy.
Wow.
And like he was like, I ended up linking up with this guy out on the street, man, and it was like I was doing some stuff with like trying to advocate to get like guys jobs and like different fields and like hospitals and like felons, like really trying to push the envelope, man, for like
that's cool,
us, man. Like not on like no superficial level, like really trying to like get us into a position where we would be better off, man. And I faulted in kind of like going headstrong in that endeavor and like going like I kind of like I fell to the wayside, kind of like got lazy in a lot of ways. And
we go off course, but as long as we bring it back, Teddy, you know what I'm saying? Like wherever you fall off from, I like to say it is what it is. Like what's next is what you make it, bro. You know what I mean? We have a chance that a lot of people don't have a chance, man. And I just wanted to ask you before we wrap this up, man. Anything you want to say? anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to say to maybe somebody just coming home? I know you said don't rush it, stuff like that, or maybe kids that are kind of getting in trouble, maybe kind of anything you could say to wake them up.
Man, it's the system ain't fair, man, and like
it's rigged.
You get out there and you play with these laws, and you know these police out here, they're not really doing anybody no favors if they're not shooting you in your back, man. They're cuffing you up and throwing away the key, and it was like, you know, a lot of people put themselves in bad situations by not really sitting back and looking at the situation for what it is. I see it every day when I walk through the square and I see the situation going on in the circle, and it's weird to me because I don't do that thing. I don't go out there, and that's not my scene, but I see it though.
Right.
And it's weird because like I see the trappings, and it's like it's funny because like I can just step around it, but it's like to the people that just, I mean, I guess can't like overcome it. I guess the people that just seem like, it's just one thing. It's like drugs do a lot of things by bringing people to places that they don't want to be, places, undesirable places, being around undesirable people, and it's, you know, that's a hard thing, man. All I could do to say is like kind of get yourself away from your current situation and give yourself a break, man. It really took a lot for me, like honestly, a lot of overdoses, man, and it was like, you know, seeing like the toll that it was taking on like my family, and it took that for me to kind of like get away from like that type of trappings, like, you know, hanging out in like these squares and all like these undesirable places. Like, you know, my mom, she goes to work, she walks through the square, man. I can imagine if she would just see me out there.
And they didn't, like our moms didn't do nothing wrong, you know what I mean? Nothing. And it sucks too, even doing time put, it's a lot on them, man, because at the end of the day, my mom was the one who was there more than anybody, and she don't even have money like that, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I like to say sometimes it's like really not even always about us too. You know what I mean? We affecting other people, and we're here, and we gotta really
we put our burdens on other people when we're doing time too. We kind of like when you're on the phone and you're jacking, and you know you want to get the money up there, and you just, you know, maybe if you don't even want money, like, you know, you just want somebody to talk to, and it's just like, you know, sometimes like the phone costs too much and it's expensive. You know, and it's like we kind of get in our bag and kind of self-loathing in a lot of ways, like the poor me. Yeah. You know, and it's easy to get in that phase, so being in them situations.
You got to try to be positive.
But
those thoughts will come, but it's when you get one of those thoughts, poor me, you got to say, I'm better than that 3 times. You know what I'm saying? Each time. And that way, as long as it over, you know what I mean, you put it more positive than negative, and it's a net gain, like, and you're feeding that to your subconscious, that's how you'll treat yourself too. Because if you talk bad about yourself, your subconscious is gonna treat yourself bad and all that, man. Teddy, I really appreciate you coming through,
man.
bro.
I appreciate you.
You know what I mean? You're my guy, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man.
You kept it real, always been a real dude, man.
Sure.
I'm Bobby, man. This is my boy Teddy. This is the Bounce Back Podcast. It is what it is. What's next is what you make it. It's a scandalous production, and we out. Peace, man.
Sure.
Bounce back, you got 'em on, man. When they see you down,